Now, I want to bring in my next guest, political journalist John Fund. John, thanks for joining us again here on the U.S. Report. And first of all, I want to get your thoughts on that moment that Mitch McConnell had in front of the cameras. What did you make of it? And do you think that it's time to start talking about age limits potentially for American politicians?
Well, I think Mitch McConnell's episode was clearly more serious than the normal forgetfulness or losing one's train of thought. He's also had several falls recently. I think Mitch McConnell, wants to become majority leader again in 2024. I think he may not reach that benchmark. As for age limits, that's very difficult to quantify and I think would be, of course, passed by a bunch of people in their 60s and 70s, so you'd have to grandfather everyone. I've always supported term limits. Term limits would basically mean a rotation of fresh talent and fresh blood in the country, regardless of age.
And John, now let's get to the real nitty-gritty of politics this week. We've seen a lot more come out around Hunter Biden, that plea deal that fell apart, and the possibility he might be going on trial for some of these crimes that could reveal things about the wider Biden family operation. Now, Kevin McCarthy has floated the possibility of impeachment. What is your reaction? And again, if this doesn't get up, would this be problematic for the Republicans, making them look impotent heading into the 2024 campaign?
I don't think impeachment helped the Democrats when they tried it twice against President Trump. I don't think it would help Republicans, especially if you know there's absolutely zero chance of it succeeding. So you distract the entire country's attention away from real issues, from foreign policy to inflation, and you consume it with a battle over impeachment. I believe the real question will be, will Joe Biden be on the ballot in 2024? I think Joe Biden's perilous health condition impeaches himself, and he will not be the Democratic candidate.
Yeah, look, I agree with you on that, John. I've been saying that on this program for months. But let's look over at the other side of politics here and what's happening with the Republicans. Now, Ron DeSantis has let go more than a third of his staff in what's being called a campaign reset. What do you make of this, and also the fact that so many of the attacks on him are coming from the mainstream media? Does this suggest that the New York Times and Washington Post are actually more afraid of Ron DeSantis getting traction than they are of Donald Trump?
Well, I think if you privately surveyed the mainstream media, you'd find that they believe Trump is ultimately the weakest candidate because he probably will face 3 or 4 indictments, and that will turn off independent voters. So DeSantis made a couple of mistakes himself. He announced too late. He also basically was promoting his record in Florida. He was almost practicing as tourism director for Florida rather than a national leader. And I think the third mistake he made is not realizing that the mainstream media wouldn't wait for him to announce for president. They would try to take him down and distort his record, even on COVID, where he had a good record. And I think he underappreciated the attacks from the left. I think he will reset his campaign. It is possible it will work. We have to remember that John McCain was broke and completely destitute in 2007 as the Republican candidate for president against Rudy Giuliani, and he came back and became the Republican nominee.
Thank you so much for your time, John Fund.